Believe it or not, silence from a woman isn't just silence. It's a message. Maybe you've been there. You send her a message. She reads it, maybe doesn't even open it, and hours turn into days. And your mind, it starts doing laps. Did I say something wrong? Did I come on too strong? Is she even interested anymore? The confusion doesn't just sit there. It eats at you, quietly, every time you check your phone. And I get it. That ache of not knowing is brutal. But here's the thing. What if I told you that her silence actually has more meaning than her words ever could? That in her not calling, not texting, she's revealing something about herself and about you. In this video, we're not going to give you the same tired dating advice like play it cool or just wait it out. We're diving deeper. We're going to unpack exactly what her silence means, not just on the surface, but psychologically, emotionally, even spiritually. We'll look at it through the lens of Stoic philosophy, modern psychology, and real-world behavior. And more importantly, we'll figure out how you should respond, not react. By the end, you won't just feel less confused. You'll feel in control. Because once you understand the truth about silence, you stop chasing noise. Ready? Let's go. 1. The silence isn't always negative. Here's the thing. Most guys get wrong right out of the gate. They assume that silence means rejection. If she's not texting back, it must mean she's done right. Not always. In fact, a lot of the time, her silence has nothing to do with you, and everything to do with what she's going through. She might be overwhelmed, emotionally drained, processing her own thoughts, or simply taking space in a way that feels normal to her. Women, generally speaking, tend to communicate in waves, not on fixed, predictable intervals. It's not uncommon for them to go quiet when they're dealing with stress, when they're unsure about how they feel, or even when they like someone and are scared of coming on too strong. We live in a culture that pushes instant replies, instant validation, but relationships, especially in their early stages, don't always follow that rhythm. There's also a psychological layer here. Studies in gendered communication, like the work of linguist Deborah Tannen, highlight how men often view communication as transactional, while women view it as relational. So when a woman pulls back or doesn't respond, it might be because she doesn't have the emotional energy to engage at that moment. Not because she's ghosting or losing interest, but most men interpret that gap as rejection because we're wired to associate lack of response with failure. That misinterpretation triggers anxiety and fear, which then leads us to act in ways that sabotage attraction over texting, chasing, trying to fix something that was never broken in the first place. So before you jump to conclusions, slow down. Her silence doesn't always mean something's wrong. Sometimes it just means she's human, and sometimes the best move isn't to decode her. It's to understand your own instinct to panic when things aren't immediately clear. 2. The Stoic response to uncertainty. When she doesn't text back, most guys react. They spiral, they overthink, check their phones 100 times a day, replay conversations in their heads, trying to figure out what went wrong. But this is exactly where the Stoic mindset separates the boys from the men. Stoicism teaches us one powerful principle: you can't control what she does, but you can control how you respond. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In that silence, you have a choice. You can let your emotions lead. Let anxiety dictate your next move, or you can pause, breathe, and choose stillness. That doesn't mean indifference. It means presence. It means not letting someone else's silence disturb your inner peace. Most of us were never taught how to sit with uncertainty. We were taught to fix, to pursue, to solve, but not to just be. The Stoic doesn't chase answers that aren't being offered. He recognizes that her silence isn't a problem to be solved. It's just an event, neutral in nature, until he assigns it meaning. And instead of assigning it meaning like she's done with me, or I must not be good enough, the Stoic reframes it. This is an opportunity to return to myself. That might sound poetic, but it's actually intensely practical, because in that space, in that pause, you get to build strength, mental clarity, emotional discipline. You stop being a man who needs a response to feel worthy and start becoming a man who is centered, regardless of what or who comes and goes. That's not just attraction, that's power. Number 3. Her silence often tests your emotional strength. Let's talk about a moment almost every man has faced. You're texting her regularly. Things seem fine. Then one day, the replies, slow down, or stop completely. No explanation, just silence. Your mind starts racing. Did I say something wrong? Is she talking to someone else? Should I check in? That emotional spiral happens fast, and here's the brutal truth. Most guys fail right here. Not because they're bad men, but because they've never been taught how to hold steady when things go quiet. What she's doing, whether she knows it or not, testing something real. Not your charm, not your sense of humor. She's testing your emotional strength. Women often test without asking. They don't send a quiz. They pull back and they watch. Not because they want to hurt you, but because space reveals truth. What does it reveal in you? Do you collapse? Do you chase? Do you beg for answers you probably won't like anyway? Or do you pause? Stay calm? Stay grounded? The difference between those reactions is the difference between being forgettable and unforgettable. Let's break this down. Picture 2 men. One feels that silence and immediately sends a follow-up text, then another, then a just checking in. Within hours, he's rewriting the story of their entire connection in his head. That energy, it's heavy. It doesn't draw her in, it pushes her away. Now picture the second man. He notices the silence, he feels it, but he doesn't flinch, he doesn't assume. He doesn't react, he stays focused, he goes to the gym, he finishes his work, he texts no one. That energy, it's rare, it's attractive, it's powerful, because it's not desperate. In Stoic thinking, this is called temperance, the ability to hold back when every part of you wants to reach out. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Her silence, that's the outside event. Your urge to panic, that's the mind. When you give in to the panic, you surrender your power. But when you hold your frame, you take it back. This doesn't mean you ignore her forever. It doesn't mean you ghost her in return. It means you give her space without giving up your peace. You don't punish her with silence. You don't play reverse games. You just don't over-invest in confusion. You let the space breathe. And that stillness does something incredible. It creates contrast. Most men chase clarity. The man who doesn't, the stands out. Women notice more than you think. When you don't try to control the moment, when you don't demand answers, when you remain grounded, that registers deeply. It doesn't make her feel ignored. It makes her feel that you are rooted in something bigger than her approval. That is rare, and rare things get remembered. Here's a practical example. A woman once told me that the guy she ended up falling for was the only one who didn't panic when she disappeared for a few days. She was overwhelmed with work. She needed space. Every other guy she dated used her silence as a reason to push harder. Only one man didn't. He waited. He checked in once, briefly. No drama, no guilt. Then he carried on. That calm made her curious. She couldn't stop thinking about him. She said it made her feel safe, and that's what drew her back. Your silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of strength. The strength to not be ruled by emotion. The strength to pause when your instincts tell you to act. The strength to say, "I'm okay. I'm not chasing anyone. I know who I am." That kind of energy doesn't beg to be loved. It doesn't fight for attention. It creates gravity. And here's the twist. Women are biologically wired to be drawn to that gravity. It signals stability, security, leadership. If you crumble every time she goes quiet, she can't trust your strength. But if you stay composed, she knows you're built for more than just easy moments. So next time the text doesn't come back, don't rush to fill the void. Let it breathe. Let her feel your absence. Let her see what kind of man you are when nothing's being said. That's when the real test happens. And most men fail it. But you don't have to. Comment below. I hold strong. Because what comes next separates the ones she forgets from the ones she can't ignore. Number 4. If you chase her silence, you lose. Let's say she hasn't texted you back in a day or two. No explanation. No, been busy. Just quiet. At first, you brush it off. Maybe she's busy. Maybe something came up. But then hours turn into a full day. Then 2. That's when the itch starts. You want to reach out. You want to break the silence. You want to fix it. But let me be clear. If you chase her silence, you lose. Not because reaching out is always wrong, but because the reason behind it usually is. Most guys don't chase because they care. They chase because they can't sit still in uncertainty. That's the real issue. It's not her silence. It's your response to it. When you start over-messaging, overthinking, over-apologizing, you're sending a message that's louder than anything you could say in words. My sense of self depends on how you respond to me. That kind of energy, it doesn't create attraction, it kills it. Because now you're not being a grounded man. You're performing for approval. You're seeking comfort, not connection. And whether she knows it consciously or not, she feels it, and it turns her off. Let's talk about a real example. One guy I coached had just started seeing a woman he really liked. She was responsive, flirty, seemed genuinely into him. Then, out of nowhere, silence. No reply to his last message. One day went by, then another. By day 3, he panicked. He sent a long message. Hey, just wondering if I said something wrong. If you're not feeling it, I get it. But just let me know. She didn't reply. A week later, she unmatched him. He was crushed. And not just because she disappeared, but because he felt like he gave away his power in those last messages. What could he have done instead? Nothing. That's right, nothing. Just pause. Let the silence breathe. Let her miss him. Because here's the paradox. The more space you give someone, the more they feel your absence. But when you chase their silence, you're saying, my presence isn't enough. Let me prove myself. That breaks the polarity. That makes you predictable. And predictable isn't attractive. Stoicism teaches us to stop needing to control things outside our influence, and that includes her attention. You can't force her to respond. You can't make her explain herself. What you can do is control how you carry yourself when you don't get what you want. That's what separates grounded men from emotionally reactive ones. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." In this case, the best response to her silence is not to become desperate or needy. It's to stay composed. When she pulls back, don't chase, pull into yourself. That doesn't mean playing cold or distant. It means prioritizing self-respect over reaction. Because here's the truth, if she's interested, she'll reach out again. And when she does, you'll be in a position of power, not because you played it cool, but because you actually were cool. Most guys make the mistake of thinking attention is something you win through effort. But for high-value men, attention is earned through presence, through stability, through a calm, centered life that doesn't need constant validation. So what do you do instead of chasing? You reinvest into yourself, into your health, into your goals, into the parts of your life that don't vanish when someone else goes silent. The moment you stop trying to chase her back is the moment you start becoming the kind of man she'll notice again. Maybe not right away, maybe not ever. But that doesn't matter, because it's not about winning her back. It's about not losing yourself in the process. Here's what I want you to remember. When you chase silence, you send the signal that you can be emotionally manipulated, that if she disappears, you'll panic. And no one respects what they can control that easily. But when you stay calm, stay still, stay focused, now she's dealing with something new. A man she can't read like every other guy. A man who doesn't fall apart. A man who doesn't chase noise. If this is resonating with you, if you know you've chased in the past and felt the regret afterward, don't beat yourself up. Learn. And do it differently next time. The power isn't in being perfect. It's in being aware. Aware enough to stop before you send that message. Strong enough to pause. Secure enough to wait. And if you're serious about becoming this kind of man-grounded, self-led, and stoic, in the moments that count, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to go deeper, join the Stoic Brotherhood. You'll get early content, exclusive training, and access to a private group of men walking the same path as you. Comment below. I don't chase. There's something most men overlook in moments like this. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Stick around, because what's coming will shift the way you move forever. Number 5. What you should do instead. Okay, so she's gone quiet. No texts, no calls. You've seen the signs. You've felt the urge to chase. But now you know, don't. You hold your ground. That's the first step. But then what? What are you supposed to do instead of spiraling into your head? Instead of waiting by your phone or playing games to look unbothered? Here's the truth. Most men only focus on what not to do, but the real power is in knowing what to do next. And it starts with one thing: refocusing your energy. When she's silent, that space feels uncomfortable, and discomfort creates a vacuum. Most men rush to fill it with attention-seeking. But if you learn to redirect that discomfort toward yourself, toward your discipline, your direction, your mission, you win every time. Let me show you how this works in real life. You text her, no reply. Instead of checking your phone every 10 minutes, you go to the gym. You lift hard. You feel the weight, rep by rep. You walk out standing taller. Then you go finish that project you've been putting off. You don't force focus, you earn it, one task at a time. By the time the day ends, you're not drained. You're in motion. That's attractive energy. You didn't fake anything. You just returned to your purpose. Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Think about how much mental time you waste worrying about why she hasn't replied. What if all that energy went toward building yourself, improving your body, sharpening your mind, deepening your self-control? That's not moving on. That's moving forward. Here's what most men don't realize. The man who lives fully without needing a response becomes the man she notices again. But by then, he doesn't need to be noticed. And that shift in energy changes everything. Let's be even more practical. What do you do when she goes silent? First, you stop asking questions she hasn't answered. Why is she pulling away? What did I do wrong? Those questions keep you stuck. Instead, ask better ones. What in my life right now deserves more of me? Where have I been neglecting my own growth? Next, set a short goal that demands your attention. Could be physical, could be financial, could be something as simple as clearing out your space, your schedule, your head. The point is, you direct energy outward, not inward. This is Stoicism in action, not just theory. Stoicism isn't about pretending you don't feel anything. It's about placing emotion in its rightful place. You feel the silence, you recognize it, but you don't let it rule you. You become the kind of man who moves whether someone claps for him or not. And here's the beauty of it. When you do this, you're not playing a role. You're not using discipline as a strategy to win her back. You're living in alignment, and that feels different to you and to her. She might reach out again. She might not. Either way, you're moving forward. And when she looks at you next, if she ever do, she'll see a version of you she doesn't quite recognize. Not because you became someone else, but because you finally became the version of yourself that doesn't wait for permission. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is this: external things don't make you whole. Your peace, your progress, your presence, those are internal. You don't need her response to validate that. And when you live like that, something interesting happens. You become unpredictable in the best way. She can't figure you out. You're no longer emotionally tied to her every word or silence. That creates mystery. That creates gravity. So here's what you do instead of chasing. You get to work. Not just busy work, but meaningful action. You build a schedule so full, so rich in purpose, that her silence becomes just another quiet moment in your day, not the center of it. You stay still in your mind, but fast in your life. That's how the Stoic moves. Calm on the surface, forward underneath. Comment below. I move forward. Because when you stop needing answers and start building your own path, you don't just change your relationships, you change everything. Number 6. If she returns, you're still in control. Let's say she texts you again, out of nowhere. Maybe it's a casual, hey. Maybe she responds to a story. Maybe she just says, sorry, I've been busy. And boom, your phone lights up. Your pulse jumps. Your brain lights up with possibility again. The silence is over. She's back. Now here's the part where most men lose the plot. They think her return means everything goes back to how it was. They open the door too wide, too fast. They respond within seconds. They flood her with energy again. And in doing that, they hand over control. All of it. And usually, she fades out again. Why? Because deep down she senses something, that nothing changed. That the second she reappears, you drop everything. But a man grounded in his frame, he doesn't do that. When she returns, he doesn't see it as a victory. He sees it for what it is, a test of consistency. She wants to know, did you really grow? Or did you just wait? See, when she goes silent, you were tested in absence. But when she comes back, you're tested in presence. This is where control matters. Not control over her, but over yourself, over your emotions, over your energy, over how quickly you let someone back into your space. Just because she came back doesn't mean she's earned the same access she had before. That has to be reassessed. In Stoic terms, this is called prudence, clear judgment. Not getting swept up by emotions, not reacting on impulse. It's the ability to pause and ask, what's right for me now? Here's what that looks like in action. She messages you. You don't jump. You take your time. You respond, but not to prove anything. You're calm, present, measured. You ask yourself, am I opening this door because it's good for me or just because I missed the attention? That question alone puts you back in control. Let's go deeper. A man in control understands that just because she's back doesn't mean he needs to pick up where they left off. Sometimes silence shifts things. Maybe you've changed. Maybe your standards have. Maybe now you look at her with clearer eyes. You don't punish her. You don't play hard to get. But you don't surrender your power either. You engage on your terms, not out of desperation, but out of alignment. It's easy to confuse attraction with momentum. Just because she's moving toward you again doesn't mean you have to meet her at the same pace. Control means slowing it down, checking your own temperature, listening to what your gut says, not just your loneliness. Let me give you a story. A man I once worked with had been ghosted by a woman for almost a month. He didn't chase. He stayed grounded, kept building his life. When she finally messaged him again, his first instinct was to reply right away. But he paused. He thought it through. He replied later that evening. Calm, short, not cold, but centered. Over the next few days, she kept trying to re-engage. The difference? He wasn't overeager. He wasn't resentful. He was still in control. And eventually, she opened up, admitted she had pulled away out of fear. that his calm response made her feel safer than any guy who had ever blown up her phone. You don't control if she comes back, but you control what kind of man she finds if she does. And sometimes, that man isn't even interested anymore, not because he's bitter, but because he grew past needing her. That's real control, not fake indifference, but genuine clarity. Remember this, you are the gatekeeper to your world. You decide who enters, how fast, and how deep. Just because someone knocks doesn't mean you let them in all the way. That's not cruelty, that's standards. And women respect a man with standards far more than one who's just happy to be chosen again. So, if she comes back, great. But don't hand over the keys just because she showed up. Pause, evaluate. Engage if you want to, but only if she aligns with who you are now, not who you were before. Comment below, I hold the frame. Because if you've come this far, there's one shift left that most men never learn, and it makes all the difference. Number 7. Your distance turns hair on. It might sound strange, but yes, your distance is one of the most powerful tools of attraction you have. Not your compliments, not your good morning texts, not the memes you send to make her smile. Distance, space. The gap between you and her, it creates tension, and tension creates desire. Here's the reality most men ignore. Attraction doesn't grow in constant presence. It grows in space, in the unknown, in the wondering. You ever notice how when you stop chasing, suddenly she starts watching your stories again? She lingers on your posts, maybe even likes something random from 3 weeks ago. That's not coincidence. That's psychology, that's biology. She feels your absence, and her mind starts to fill in the blanks. Women are emotionally intuitive. When your energy pulls back, not with bitterness, not as a game, but with peace, they notice it. And that shift flips something in them. It creates curiosity. Why isn't he reaching out? Why does he seem more focused? Why do I feel this urge to pull him closer? Most guys think they need to impress her by being consistent, always available, always showing up. But that constant availability, it removes all polarity. There's no spark, no tension, nothing for her to lean into. And attraction, real attraction, needs friction. Think about this. Every powerful story of seduction, in history and in fiction, involves one thing: distance. The mystery, the pause, the not knowing. That's where the fire builds. Because when something is slightly out of reach, it becomes more desirable. Now let's be clear. We're not talking about being cold or rude. Stoicism doesn't teach indifference. It teaches self-respect. It teaches you to pull your energy inward, not to punish but to protect. Your attention becomes valuable. Your time becomes sacred. You no longer hand it out to anyone who makes you feel seen. That shift alone changes how she sees you. Imagine this. You used to message her daily. She pulled back. Instead of doubling down, you stopped. You didn't ghost her, you just stopped chasing. You started focusing on your goals. You moved in silence. And now she's starting to notice something's missing. You, your presence, your attention. And because she doesn't have it anymore, it becomes rare, valuable, attractive. In Stoic thought, this is tied to the concept of control of desire. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, taught that craving something too intensely gives it power over you. But when you detach, when you let go of need, you regain that power. In relationships, the same truth applies. When you stop craving her validation, you become more centered. And that calm, detached energy, it makes her lean in. This isn't a game, it's nature. Humans are wired to pursue what withdraws, to value what isn't easily available. When you create healthy space, she feels your absence as a contrast, and that contrast builds interest. Let me give you an example. One guy I know dated a woman who started to lose interest after a few months. She stopped putting in effort. He could have tried harder, gotten more romantic, but instead he stepped back. Not out of spite, but because he had things to focus on. He stopped initiating, focused on building his business, hit the gym daily, improved his lifestyle. 2 weeks later, she messaged him first, then she called, then she showed up with the kind of energy he hadn't seen in months. Why? Because she felt his energy leave and she wanted it back. Your distance speaks volumes. Not silence with bitterness, but distance with purpose. She senses that you're not waiting around anymore, that you've moved into something higher, something focused, something stronger. And that feeling? It pulls her in. Here's the wild truth. The less you need her, the more attractive you become to her. Why? Because she no longer feels your desire as pressure. She feels it as presence. You're there, but not clinging. You're open, but not desperate. That balance, that masculine stillness, that's what turns her on more than any words you could say. So if you're in that phase where she's backing off, don't fill the space. Let it stretch. Let her wonder. Let your absence do the talking. Because your distance isn't rejection, it's magnetism. Comment below. I am the gravity. If you're done chasing and ready to be the one she feels pulled toward without ever having to beg for it. And stay sharp, because once you truly understand this next principle, you stop chasing women entirely and they start chasing you. Number 8. Let her chase the mystery. Let me tell you something most men don't realize. They give themselves away too quickly, not just physically, emotionally, energetically. They explain every move, they share every thought. They make their intentions obvious from day one. And while honesty is good, overexposure is not. Because once she knows everything about you, there's nothing left to explore. Now think about the opposite. Think about the guy who doesn't overshare. The one who doesn't rush to prove himself. The one who's calm, deliberate, thoughtful. She doesn't know what he's thinking half the time. He's kind, but not too available. He's present, but not predictable. He's a mystery. And guess what? She can't stop thinking about him. That's the power of mystery. And mystery isn't about hiding who you are. It's about holding something back. It's about letting her uncover you, slowly, not all at once. Because when she chases mystery, she becomes invested, emotionally, mentally, even physically. But when you chase her with all your energy, text after text, call after call, confession after confession, you rob her of that tension. You flood her with answers before she's even asked the questions. And that kills attraction. Why? Because women don't fall in love with information, they fall in love with imagination. The part of her that wants to know more, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what drives you, that's the part that bonds her to you. That's what keeps her emotionally attached. So how do you become that mystery? Simple. You stop broadcasting your every move. You let her wonder. You share just enough to build trust, but not enough to become predictable. Mystery lives in restraint, in silence, in pauses. You don't have to talk all the time. You don't have to explain why you didn't text back right away. You don't have to justify why you're busy. That silence, that unspoken calm, that's what makes her think about you more, not less. Stoicism teaches us to be disciplined with our energy, to speak with purpose, to act with intention. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That means showing strength in action, not in explanation. A mysterious man isn't fake. He's focused. He doesn't need her to understand everything about him to feel valid. He's comfortable being unknown. And that comfort with silence, with space, with not being figured out, that's what creates magnetic presence. Let me give you a practical example. You're on a date. She asks you a deep question. What are you looking for? Most men spill everything. They talk for 5 minutes straight, trying to sound emotionally mature. But the man with presence pauses, thinks, says something honest but short, something that adds peace to my life. That's it. He doesn't over-explain. He lets the weight of that answer hang. And guess what? She thinks about it later. She wonders. That wondering creates investment. You don't have to play hard to get. You just have to stop giving yourself away so easily. Let her ask. Let her lean in. Let her initiate sometimes. Not because you're cold, but because your attention has standards. Here's what happens when you do this right. She starts watching you more closely. She starts listening more carefully. She starts craving your attention, not because you withhold it, but because it's selective, earned, rare. And in a world full of men who try too hard to be liked, the man who holds a little bit back becomes unforgettable. Mystery isn't manipulation. It's maturity. It's the discipline to know that the more she discovers you on her own, the deeper she connects. So stop rushing to fill the silence. Let her chase it. Let her lean into the unknown. Let her feel just enough distance to be curious, and just enough presence to stay intrigued. Because the man she can't fully figure out, that's the man she can't fully forget. Comment below. I create the mystery if you're done explaining and ready to start embodying. And keep watching, because the next move will shift the entire dynamic between you and her, even when you say nothing at all. Number 9. Never reward inconsistency with access. Let's be honest. Most men are way too forgiving when a woman pulls away, goes cold, then comes back like nothing happened. She disappears for a week. Then she pops up with a, "Hey, stranger." And what do most guys do? They open the door wide open. No questions, no hesitation. She's back, so they roll out the red carpet. That's the trap. You're rewarding inconsistency with access. And that tells her one thing: I don't respect myself enough to set a standard. Now think about this. If someone can dip in and out of your life anytime they want and still get the same version of you every time, why would they ever treat you seriously? The truth is, consistency is a form of respect. And if she can't give you that, she shouldn't get full access to you. Access to your time, your attention, your energy, your mind, your body. Those are not free, those are earned. And once you stop treating yourself like a free sample, everything changes. Here's the psychology behind it. When someone gives you 50% effort and still gets 100% of you in return, they stop trying. It's not personal, it's human nature. We value what we work for, and we devalue what is handed to us on demand. Now, I'm not saying you should be cold, rude, or petty when she's inconsistent. This isn't about revenge. It's about reinforcement. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. And if she can be hot and cold, disappear and reappear, and still get your full attention, you've just taught her that your standards are flexible, and flexible standards attract unstable connections. So what should you do instead? You respond differently. You slow it down. You don't jump back in. You observe. You notice patterns. You don't open the whole door just because she knocked again. And here's the thing, this isn't punishment. It's protection. For you, for your peace, for your future. In Stoic philosophy, this is about guarding your inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Her behavior is an outside event. Your reaction, that's the power. That's the difference between being a doormat and being a man with direction. Let me give you a real-world example. A guy I know was seeing a woman who flaked on plans 3 times in a row. Each time she had an excuse, seemed sweet, seemed sincere, but it kept happening. On the 4th time she messaged him late at night. "Hey, wanna hang out?" He paused. Then he replied the next morning with a calm but clear message. "I'm not interested in last-minute energy anymore. Take care." No drama, no chase, just a clear boundary. She didn't reply right away. But a week later, she came back with consistency, made plans, showed up on time, changed the entire tone. Why? Because he didn't reward her inconsistency with access. He made it clear, if you want me, come correct. And the respect that creates? It's real, because now she knows this man isn't just looking to be chosen, he's choosing to. And that energy, it's rare. Most men are starving for attention. They'll take any version of her just to feel close to her again. But the man who doesn't chase when she's inconsistent, he becomes unforgettable. Let's be clear, you don't need to cut people off harshly, but you do need to evaluate. Is this person adding peace or confusion? Do they show up for you only when it's convenient? Because when you keep the door open for chaos, you close the door to clarity. So next time she vanishes and returns, pause, reflect, decide if she's earned the same level of you she had before. And if not, don't give it. Not out of pride, but out of principle. Comment below. I protect my access if you're done giving full effort to half-hearted people. And stay sharp, because there's one final shift that changes the entire game. Not just how she sees you, but how you see yourself. Number 10. Be the man she regrets losing. This is where it all leads. You don't chase her. You don't collapse in silence. You don't reward flakiness with your time. You grow, you evolve, you sharpen, and eventually you become the man she regrets losing. Not because you posted thirst traps, not because you tried to make her jealous, but because you became something she never expected, complete without her. That kind of man sticks in a woman's memory. Not the one who begged, not the one who blew up her phone, the one who disappeared quietly and came back better, stronger, clearer, harder to reach. That's when the regret sets in, when she realizes she had access to something rare and let it slip. But here's the twist. By then, it doesn't even matter to you anymore, because you didn't grow for her, you grew for you. Stoicism teaches us to focus not on outcomes but on effort, not on how others respond, but on how we show up. And when you do that consistently, day by day, you transform. You go from being the man who needed her to text back, to the man who doesn't check his phone because he's too focused on building his life. That's what makes you unforgettable, not just because you're better, but because you've become grounded, purposeful, respected by yourself. And when you live like that, when you stop chasing and start leading, she won't just notice. She'll feel the loss. And you'll feel free. Comment below. I became the one if you're done being forgotten and ready to become the man she can't ignore. If this spoke to you, don't just scroll away. Hit subscribe now so you never miss the next move. And if you're ready to go deeper, to build yourself with clarity, strength, and real stoic discipline, join the brotherhood. That's where the real work begins. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp. I'll see you tomorrow.